Aloha, my fellow Baha'is. Um, Spoke to Laura Smith today. She asked me to um, shoot a little video and talk about some of the new tactics I've been learning, or not necessarily tactics, but um, some tips and pointers that I might be able to give some people out there as far as engaging with people who haven't heard of the faith, or friends or acquaintances. I've been having some pretty decent success with speaking to people about the faith, and um, bringing up the teachings that we've been learning in book 2, and systematically going through the different sections in my head while I'm speaking to the people. And so I just wanted to shoot a quick video and kind of just give my little testimony of some things that have been working for me. So, for example, for today was a very successful day. I had to go to the grocery store today, so before I left, I thought, I really want to bump into a receptive soul today, Baha'u'llah. I really want to share the faith and teach the faith to somebody, anybody. So I said a heartfelt prayer that please lead me to receptive souls, and then to take over and say whatever you want me to say, that move me out of the way. Let me just be a vessel. And now I've learned over time that whenever I say that prayer, it happens. And when I don't, it doesn't. It's just that simple. So I said it today with hope, with knowing that something was going to happen. So as I'm going to the grocery store, and I'm in a wheelchair, if you can see. So I drove the wheelchair over to the public shopping center, and there's a Pizza Hut in there. And I know that one of the guys who makes pizza in there, the manager, I see him all the time. And so I want to backtrack. So when I was on the way to the store, in my mind, I was thinking of who do I know in the shopping center. See, I've been living here for a year and a half, and I've been planting seeds, just meeting people, not talking about the faith unless it comes up. But I have a list of people in my head and on paper that I've spoken to, that I see regularly, the cashier at the Publix, or the business owner at the little acai bowl place, and then there's the Pizza Hut manager I know. So like, just keeping a log of who and what we see on a regular basis is the first step, right? Because you can't just come out to a perfect stranger and just start preaching to them, or somebody that you've seen once or twice. I try to make it a concerted effort to get to know people, remember their names, even if they're just the meat man at the Publix, or the homeless guy who's on the corner named Earl. I speak to him all the time. Just getting, just talking to people normally, being loving and caring. And so anyway, I said, well, let me go in Publix and talk to Marshall. His name, I wasn't supposed to say the names. Talk to a friend of mine. So I go into the Pizza Hut, and I say, is so-and-so here? And they're like, no, he's not here today. But I knew the other two workers, but I really didn't know them that well. So anyway, I said, well, man, I wanted to invite him to a devotional that I have every other weekend. And they're like, oh, really, a devotional? I was like, well, what is that about? I said, well, it's an interfaith devotional. It's open to all faiths, backgrounds, ethnic creeds, religions, races, anybody. I said, I really am trying to make a safe space where the community, the people that live within our little community, can come together, take a moment to pause, reflect, pray, talk about things that have been bothering them, explain it to, letting them know it's just a safe space. There's no, religious dogma or anything like that. And he was like, really? I was like, you know what? I would like to invite you too. And then another lady in the back, she comes up, and I've seen her several times, but we never really spoke. I was like, well, you know what? You're invited too. And then so now I got their attention. Now they're receptive, right? Here's the receptive soul. They were very positive about it. So then this is the question that I always ask to everybody. Once we get into an elevated conversation, I say, what is your faith background, if you don't mind me asking? Just like that. And everybody will answer you. I've never had anybody that was offended by that question. I didn't want to answer it. Some of it might be a little short answer. I grew up Christian, but I kind of faded away. Some people will go into detail. Like the lady today, she started going into detail about her background and her faith. And now while she's saying that, I'm logging all that in, right? And I'm thinking about book 2 and what topics can we discuss based on what she's saying, not based on what I want to say. I listen to what she's saying, and then with whatever she's saying, I'm trying to come up with something that I read in the writings. I'm always processing both at the same time during the conversation. And just so happened, Laura and I have been going through book 2, and it's fresh in my mind. So I start going through, okay, need for a divine educator, the oneness of religion, all those things that are in that book. So then I just start weaving it in. And I said, well, once they tell me what their faith is, right, I say, well, I'll comment on whatever they just said. But I said, well, I'm a Baha'i. Have you ever heard of the Baha'i faith? And they're like, no. Like 9 out of 10 people will say no, or yeah, I think I've heard of that name before, but I don't know what it is. And then I tell them my story briefly. This is the key, ladies and gentlemen. You got to have a good Baha'i story. Once they tell me their story, and when I say that I'm a Baha'i, and then they say, well, what is that? And then I bring up the tenets of the faith. There's oneness of mankind, oneness of religion, independent investigation of the truth, science and religion, are two birds. I say that briefly, and then I go into how I found the faith, my faith walk, right? So I can and I relate it to what they just told me. Because whatever they just said, there's little bits in there that you can relate to with your own story. So I relate to it with my own story, related to theirs. I was Christian. I was getting, I was upset with the hypocrisy, and they were making God so small and divided, and I couldn't understand how people on the other side of the earth, just because they were born there, they got to go to hell. And everybody they know that deep down. That one right there, I always get head nods, and they're like, that is so true. I thought that too. I said, I just couldn't understand. You mean to tell me all these people got to go to hell, and God is an ever-loving, all-loving being? And I just so happen to have had a near-death experience, so I have a little bit of a unique story where maybe not that unique, but it's kind of unique. I died, and met the creator. And so everybody doesn't have that story, but it doesn't matter. Everybody has a story. Something, how you became a Baha'i. If you were born Baha'i, what made you declare? Think about it, before you go in to talk to people. People love a good story. And they'll listen. And then they can relate to it, right? And then you make it personable. And I talk about things that most everybody thinks about that are in that book too. I couldn't justify how there were so many people that were just so destitute and some so wealthy, and all the things that are in that book that we believe as Baha'is. I tell them what pushed me to this faith. And then I tell them I started looking through other books. They told me when I was growing up I wasn't allowed to read the Quran because that was evil. And you can't read the Bhagavad Gita because that's evil. It's paganism. I'm like, and I tell them, like, well, I started reading the books. I just wanted to find out. And then I found out that they were so similar. And then, whatever your story is, but that's mine. So, and the people are constantly receptive to this talk. And it's not off-putting. It's not proselytizing. It's just telling a story. It's just telling your story. And then next thing you know, me and the gentleman, he had to go back in the back, but me and that young lady, we talked for like almost an hour. She told me all kinds of stuff. And then before we, her son died and he got murdered, and she's been struggling and all these things, and like, she just resonated everything I was saying about the faith, because it's the truth. But so to not make it like I'm trying to recruit them, I was just like, you know what, you would be such a valuable asset to this devotional. Like, you would bring so much to the table, and like, I think that it would help you heal, and we can help us heal, and we're all out here hurting in one way, shape, or form. And we just started talking. I said, well, let me get your number. This is a key too. Let me get your number and add you to my prayer list. I send out a daily prayer, or like a hidden word. I say just a short writing or a prayer, which I have started to do. This is a key too. I'm telling you, it's working. Get your core group of people and pray before you get ready to send out stuff. And every day around the same time, send them a little snippet. You never know what that prayer could be. They might be exactly what they need. And then it keeps you fresh in their mind. And then it keeps God fresh in their mind. And so you have this core little group. I have this core group now where if I don't text, they're like, hey, what you okay? And so anyway, I say, can I add you to my prayer group? And everybody's like, yeah, of course. So anyway, so I left there. I went a couple doors down to get a little fruit bowl thing, and I know the manager there, so I was thinking about that too. I was like, oh, I know what, I'm not supposed to say their names, but I know so-and-so over at the little bowl place. I said, all right, let's go over there. Let's go talk to him. And so I go in, and we start having almost identical conversation that I just had with the other lady, and same response. Different answers, but same response. And same thing, added them to my prayer group, invited them to my devotional. None of these people had ever heard of the faith. By the time we were done, they had all the tenets of the faith, but it wasn't overwhelming, and they all were nodding their head like, that makes so much sense. And then I directed them to Baha'i.org. I said, go on YouTube and just look up some videos on the faith, and I'll just add you to my prayer group. I'll send you a couple, prayer once a day. And then, so I leave there, and now I finally get to go to the grocery store where I was supposed to be going anyway. And then I get in the grocery store. There's another young lady she's a cashier, but she was off duty. She was shopping, and she's like, hey, how you doing? I said, hey, what's up, sweetheart? And I just made a simple comment. I said, oh, that's a great backpack you got. I was like, man, that's nice. I want to get one of those from my daughter. Where'd you get it from? She said, oh, I think I got it on Amazon. And then she's like, I really use it for my crocheting. She got like all this yarn and stuff. And so I said, well, show me. Let me see. She said, she opened the bag, started showing me. We just started talking. And then the conversation, I always try to elevate the conversation, weave it in. Whatever they're talking about is related to God, because God is not divided. God is in all things. Anything that somebody talks about, you can talk about God in it. You can. You don't have to be all overly God, like, well, God says this. No, I'm like, well, or, say, for example, comes up like in a topic, the disparity between this race or that race, this or that, and this and that. All of it, any conversation that somebody talks about, there's some way, shape, or form, we're going to have input, a little bit elevated conversation. I don't go over the top, but I'll input. So I'm trying to remember exactly what we were talking about. We were talking about like the beauty of doing art, right? Like how it is like to have a hobby, and like I shared with her my wood burning that I do, and I showed her my pictures, and I'm like, isn't it beautiful how God has blessed us with this ability to do this? And she's like, oh my God, I was thinking that same thing. How, and then she started talking about God. And I said, what's your faith background, if you don't mind me asking? Same question. I forgot to tell you, I said the same thing at the bowl place. I said, somehow we weaved it in. I don't even remember how. I just weave it in. I just mentioned God. And then once you mention God, people, And then so I said, so what's your faith background? And she goes into, she was raised Christian, that she has been searching and kind of looking to find out what she, where she fits in. And so then I said, well, have you ever heard of the Baha'i faith? I'm a Baha'i. Same thing. And then we had an elevated conversation about the Baha'i faith. She got a quick little download, loved all of it, super receptive, got the number, added to my prayer group, invited to the devotional. And now, every day, those 4 people, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I still got to go back and go see the manager because I never even got to see him, the one I was wanted to see. And then that little group, and it's just in my shopping center right here. People that I see all the time. I go to the same grocery store. I'm sure y'all go to the same grocery store. You go to the same coffee shop. You go to the same bagel shop. You go to the same mechanic. You go to the same barber shop. Actually, I have my barber in my prayer group as well. Like wherever I go, I try to, on good days when I'm really, like today was a good day. I knew today was a day to teach. Some days that doesn't happen, but more often than not, I try to do at least a little bit. Today just so happened to be a whole bunch. I was supposed to just go get cheese and eggs from the store. I was gone for like 3.5 hours. I'm just talking to people. But it's worth it. What else was I going to be doing? You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, that's my tips for you guys. Like that's been working for me. Always trying to just weave in God in some kind of way. Whatever we're talking about, it always relates to him somehow. And then I say I'm a Baha'i. Most people never heard of it. And then I just tell them how I became a Baha'i, what attracted me to the faith, and make it relatable to their story. Ask them what their faith is, listen to them, non-judgmental, of course, and then take notes while you're listening to them. And then just when you tell your story about how you became a Baha'i, because those are interesting stories. Every single one is interesting. People scroll on TikTok for hours and hours and hours just to hear people's stories. So tell them your story, and invite them to something. Even if you don't even have it set up yet, you can just put it on the books. Make a decision. I'm going to do it once a month, on this date, and then you let them know, and then ask them if you can put them in your prayer group. It's been working phenomenally. So I love all you soldiers out there putting in work, for the kingdom. I just pray for your clarity, your strength, your fortitude, your forbearance, your patience, your love, and that you go out there and you make an impact, and that you attract souls, and that the receptive souls are just put in your path wherever you go, and that you have the ability to recognize it, and that and don't overthink it. You don't have to have a script. Know that Baha'u'llah and the Holy Spirit will guide you. But have like a basic outline in your head, and then just trust in the Holy Spirit. Just trust. The concourse on high will come bearing chalices of full light. They will. Even if you mess the whole thing up, doesn't matter. The seed has been planted. And Baha'u'llah is on the job. And the Holy Spirit and the concourse and everybody, whoever, the favorite angels, the holy souls, all these, we got so much strength, power, and behind us. So just get out there, get to getting. Have a great workshop. Allahu Pa.